Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Blue Maxima and I'm here checking out Spiral Splatter. This just came out, well, by the time you see it, it'll be yesterday. Actually, no, it's not out yet, is it? It's out on like the 20th. Yeah, I don't know why they insist on going off kilter with the store things, but anyway, if I have a copy of it, like, why not? But anyway, really not that much to see in the options menu if you couldn't tell, because this is a very simple game. I've been playing for about an hour and I've completed a pretty large amount of it. Like seriously, I'm only locked out of 2 of the stage sets, so it's a fairly short game to say the least. I'm gonna pick a alright, we'll start with stage 4 just to give you a rough idea of what we're working with here. And I'll move on to some other stages later. So this game's got very simple controls. You control it using the analog stick and the X button. The X button will speed you up. However, that also means that you will be a lot less precise about things. So you need to be very careful as you move along, because this is indeed a very precision-focused game. Whoops. And that's pretty much it. It's literally the only thing you have to do is get to the goal. That's the only thing you have to do in this game. It's really that simple. Well, it's not really that simple. They introduce a few new mechanics. Like, there's always going to be a new mechanic every new set of stages, and that's why I want to play through more than one set of stages, just to show you what those are. I'm having a terrible time here. Let's reset the stage altogether. So, it really is very simple. You just have to get to the end. You do have a 3-star system, which means the slower you are, the less stars you get. Which means that you need to really apply pressure to the X button, because if you don't, you will probably lose. And of course, once you touch the walls, you will get reset. There are checkpoints. It's more or less like a 2-dimensional version of that game on PS1 called Irritating Stick. If any of you have seen, like, the videos on it by any number of YouTubers. Oh, come on, I hit the button twice. So yeah, it really is just that. There are a couple of things about it that I would like to talk about, though. Like, for one, the fact that you need to be overly precise with it. Now, that so much is obvious, right? You do need to be overly precise in a game about precision. That much is entirely certain. I'm going to move on to the next set of stages. The fact that you need to be overly precise is like an obvious thing that you need to do in these sorts of games, otherwise there'd be absolutely no challenge whatsoever. But the levels are designed in a way to make you absolutely rage at them, especially some of the later ones in any particular set. Just due to the way the game works. You do move relatively fast, just as a general rule, so even the slightest slip-up can result in you just barreling into a wall. And the only button you have is the speed up button, which is kind of hard to get control of, because it kind of feels like you come to a skidding stop unless you take your fingers off the buttons completely, which you can't do, because if you're trying to get through the stages as fast as humanly possible, you don't want to be doing that, right? So you just basically have these extremely tight stages with no room for error, and you have to get through them very quickly. Obviously, this is something that you would want out of a game like this, but at the same time, just gonna warn you now, I absolutely hate games like this. It triggers me. That's pretty much exactly what it does. It triggers me beyond belief to have to play games like this from time to time just because I hate them so damn much. I don't even remember the way to get through the stage. It's more or less a maze. There we go. It is entirely possible to 3-star every stage. Like, every stage I've played so far is more or less... Oh, I fucking hate this level. Every stage I've played so far is definitely finishable within the time limit. It's just going to be really fucking hard because of how precise you need to be. Like, I hate trying to move up this diagonal walkway just because of how easy it is to fuck it up. I'm not going to say it's impossible. I'm just going to say that it's really fucking hard to the point where some people might find it impossible. So, you have Actually, you have two major problems with this game. And the second one doesn't come up for a bit, which is kind of odd if you think about the way the game's built, but we'll talk about that one second. The first thing is that you're forced to play this game on the analog stick. You can't play it on the D-pad, which is kind of annoying, but at the same time, I can see why some of the levels would be outright impossible if you couldn't, right? Like this level here, where you have to go down at a very precise diagonal angle. This level would be impossible if you had to play on the D-pad, for example. But on the levels which are made up of nothing but like straight lines, I would really appreciate being able to play on the D-pad. Only being able to play on the analog stick on the Vita brings along its own set of problems, however, and this is a game that is currently exclusive to the Vita, in the sense that it's not on PS4. It is on mobile platforms, I believe. Like, I believe Steam also has it as well. But the problem with it is that the Vita's analog stick is too small for really precise movements in a massive chain. So, like, trying to get through this level is absolute hell for me, to the point where I'm just going to stop and go to the next set of levels, because I'm going to drive myself mad if I have to play that one for too much longer. But this is actually a well, I'm not going to call it a really easy set of levels, but it's a lot simpler and a lot easier to deal with in the grand scheme of things than your typical set. Although I'm definitely not doing too well here. But as I was saying, the Vita's analog stick isn't extremely precise. It feels like it needs to be a lot bigger and allow for a lot more subtler movements than this game allows. Fuck's sake. I missed the fucking button. It feels like it needs to be a lot smoother than this game would allow for. And with the overall size of the Vita's analog stick, it makes it really hard to do precise movements sometimes, which really sucks. Because there are some stages where you feel like you really need a bit of extra precision that you're just not getting with the Vita's analog stick. A fair few levels don't have this problem, but the ones that do, you really feel it. Especially that one with the dialogue stage. Diagonal. And that has not happened before. I don't know why the game's gone and chosen to crash here. I think it's because this memory card might be failing, which is a massive pain in the ass. But anyway, I'm going to jump cut back to the next set of stages. Alright, so here we are again. So, as I was saying before, I'm like 90% sure that the game's crashing is because this memory card is going to hell. Which is unfortunate, because I haven't been using it for that fucking long. I'm not sure what happened to it. But anyway, as I was saying, the analog stick just doesn't feel precise enough in some certain stages. You can do like straight lines mostly alright. It's fuck's sake. It's any sort of like diagonal movement whatsoever, which is what'll send you up shit creek. It just drives me mad trying to do anything that's even remotely precise on a diagonal angle, because it's just mind-boggling just with some of these stages. God, I just barely missed the clock there, you asshole. But yes, as I was saying before, fucking Christ. Yeah, this game drives me mad, couldn't you tell? There is a second problem, though, which really gets in the way. I mean, sure, you might be able to deal with the fact that the game's got some issues with the analog stick, right? You can deal with that. It's not entirely insurmountable. It really sucks, but it's not insurmountable to play the game on the analog stick, especially if you've got better fingers than I do. However, the second problem is something that sometimes you seems to not be able to shake properly, and that's performance problems. The game runs terribly in some of these later sections, and I don't know why. You saw it on that first stage there where the text started flickering. It wasn't just the text that started flickering. It was the entire game. Like, the entire game started to drop frames for no discernible reason. And in a game that relies on absolute precision, that is a nightmare. It is an absolute nightmare to, like, look at this. Oh, no, that was actually the kit. Never mind. But the game does actually start to drop frames beyond belief, and it just doesn't work properly. It's weird. Like, it just drops frames, and you'll be in one position, then you'll be in another, then you'll be in the wall. This happens more times than I can count, and it's really frustrating, too, because, I mean, the base game has some potential, sure, but if you can't bloody play it without it lagging all over the damn place... Hang on, the kit has actually gone and failed here. If you can't actually play it without the game's frame rate just dipping, or just, you know, like, choosing to skip a couple of seconds because it just feels like it, then it doesn't work. Like, imagine trying to play Super Meat Boy, for example, and then the game just, like, drops a frame or two every now and again, and you end up losing your input. Like, imagine that, or you just end up, like, warping over the place and it becomes extremely inconsistent. Game capture kit's failing again. It's because of the color schemes. Right, I'm gonna move on to the next stage. This one is slightly interesting. Beat the ghost of the target. But yeah, it's infuriating. Like, a precision-based game that loses precision at random. It boggles my mind that I actually allowed this to get through. I mean, Save the Ninja Clan was obviously quite terrible about this, but... Oh, the kit fucking failed again. Jesus, kit. Hang on. Wiggle the port a little. But yeah, there are a couple of other things that the game does as well, like... The... Ow. Like, the game's patterns, for example, you saw it back on, like, the action stages, like, was it stage 6, I think? The one where there was spinning blocks and turrets firing at you and all that. Those patterns don't reset when you do. So you end up in this annoying situation where you have to wait in place for the patterns to be the right way. All credit to the game, though, it doesn't start the timer until you move. But if you've gotten a checkpoint, you're screwed. But, yeah, basically the game does require you to wait for the patterns, but since the timer doesn't start until you actually start moving, you can deal with it, is what I'm trying to say. But with it's not an overwhelming difficulty, but it's frustrating nonetheless, just because of how unbelievably hard it seems to want to be for no discernible reason other than go fuck yourself, more or less. And the game's performance problems that just come out of nowhere. I can't in good conscience recommend it, just because of how unbelievably frustrating it would be to actually have a good run after 1,000 failed tries, only for the game to decide, oh, I'm just gonna drop a few frames, make it so that you don't exactly know where you're going, and you just end up dead. Just for that reason alone, I can't recommend it at pretty much any price. And I'm honestly not going to bother paying attention to whether they patch it, because as I said before, I hate these sorts of games. So there's no bloody point in me even trying it, and I'm going to stop here because this is driving me fucking nuts. It's diagonal movement that gets me, and it's very hard to do on the Vita's analog stick because of how small it is. But yeah, there you go. That was a look at Spiral Splatter. Don't bother. This has been Blue Maxima, and I'll see you all next time.